How's it going, guys? Baldur here, and I am currently in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Or Czechia, I believe. One of the two. But anyway, I am going to be taking off of this runway, and as you're about to see, there are X's painted on the runway, meaning that for whatever reason, no aircraft is allowed to take off or land. The reason why I'm using this runway is because the direction I am taking off will lead me to rural Bohemia, where Kingdom Come Deliverance is based. And this is episode 2 of In-Flight Memes.
Accept your new name and wear it with honor. Welcome, brother.
To understand what happened with the story of Kingdom Come Deliverance, you need to understand what the Holy Roman Empire was. And let me, a history nerd that only took a few history classes in college, teach you. Decades after the death of Charlemagne, there was this empire called the Carolingian Empire, and it was formed with 3 primary kingdoms. Now, I am not qualified in any way, shape, or form to explain what this empire was, but what you need to know is that the Western Kingdom was Frankish, and it ended up turning into France, while the Western Kingdom was Germanic, and it turned into the Holy Roman Empire. The reason it was called the Holy Roman Empire was because the emperor was the king of Christendom. Now, the thing about the Holy Roman Empire is that it was not holy, Roman, or even an empire. What does that mean? Well, they were not holy primarily because the emperor clashed with the Pope. Not only that, but the Protestant Reformation happened in the Holy Roman Empire. I am not implying that Protestantism is unholy, don't get me wrong. As an agnostic, that is not my call. What it did do, however, was wrestle away the centralized control from the papacy, and they never had the same amount of influence ever since. Even then, Jan Hus, which is mentioned in Kingdom Come Deliverance, creates the first successful denomination from the Catholic Church, and he was in the Holy Roman Empire. It was not Roman because, well, it wasn't Roman. I'm not sure what else you want me to say about that. But it is worth mentioning that the heart of the Holy Roman Empire was never touched by Rome, and any attempts into Germanic territory was ground to a halt after the Battle of Teterboro Forest. Lastly, it wasn't an empire because, unlike most other kingdoms, the Holy Roman Empire had kingdoms that served under the Holy Roman Emperor. This difference is subtle, but it makes all the difference in the world. The thing is that while the kings had to swear allegiance to the emperor, they were, for the most part, autonomous. The emperor was more or less a figurehead. This means that kingdoms were open to rebellion or mutiny if the emperor doesn't keep them happy, and this is the basis of the story of the game. To simplify what happened, Charles IV died and left the empire to his son Wenceslaus IV. The Hungarians did not like him, and Sigismund, the king of Hungary, who happened to be his half-brother, forced Wenceslaus to abdicate. The Bohemians did not like that, and this resulted in a war between Hungary and Bohemia. But you can see the problem here. This so-called empire was barely united. The emperor had no power, different kingdoms would war with each other within the empire, and kings have been known to usurp each other. It really isn't that much of an empire, if I put it that way. Hopefully what I stated makes sense to you, but either way, let's go ahead and enjoy the views. So this would be Prague in the middle of the Czech Republic, or Czechia, whichever you want to call it. And I do have to say, this really does look like Central European architecture. It looks like the type of dormitories that you would see in such cities, and it's really cool to see. And, of course, as you get further out of the way, you'll notice that things become more rural. Trust me, when it comes down to Kingdom Come Deliverance, when they say rural Bohemia, they really mean it. That's not to say that it's too far from Prague, but it really is out in the Bohemian boonies, as I'd like to call it. So one of the ways that you can tell that you are on the right track is if you go by a river. As you can imagine, just about every civilization has to build around rivers, streams, fresh water, anything, to make sure that they have enough money to, or not money, but water to grow crops, to drink, all that fun stuff. So all of these towns are going to be centered very close to the river. And the first one we are going to be looking at is Rate. Rate. Alright, so I'm gonna lower the throttle a little bit just to lower the altitude, get myself into slow flight. A little bit fast here, but that'll go down eventually. Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at Rate. And it's a very interesting town because, as you can tell, the shape of the town, this town probably maintained its shape throughout all of Bohemia. If we're still going by the assumption that it is 100% accurate from medieval times and Kingdom Come Deliverance. But either way, this is where the castle Rate should be. Plus, as you can tell, a bunch of old buildings and whatnot. I find it so weird that throughout history and events that happened 700 years ago, we have towns that probably maintained roughly the same population. Like, maybe there's 100 people at most that live in this town. Most of them are like, well, whatever. So it's kind of weird that they never blew up in population. Then again, maybe that was never the point. Maybe, just maybe, I know, it was always supposed to be rural, but I digress. Alright, so now we should be heading towards Lechko. And it's pretty much, I don't know if it is two towns across from each other, or if this is all just the same big town and there is no river divide. I'm not too entirely sure, but then again, yes, we are still looking at rural Bohemia, and still looking as gorgeous as ever. I don't know how accurate these buildings are, but I love how Flight Simulator 2020 models the way that these old buildings were like. It's a nice touch of detail. Like, if you're in Central Europe, rural Central Europe, then the game is designed to auto-gen buildings that you would find in Central Europe. Same with Slavic countries that were under control of the Soviet Union. Same with American towns and whatnot. It's pretty crazy, but either way, let's go ahead and fly to Talmberg. Alright, so we are heading towards Talmberg, and would you look at that? Again, very rural, but also very stunning. Could you imagine living in a town like this? Could you imagine just waking up and right next to you is nothing but forest? And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there are hunters or target shooters in this area. I mean, they have the forest to do so. Probably require a permit, being in Europe and whatnot, but still, this is very crazy. Just taking a look at all this stuff. Things that you would find from a video game that have been transplanted into Flight Simulator 2020. And there are a lot of things in media, a lot of important landmarks, a lot of important history, and I would absolutely love to cover all of it. So, hope I see you guys with the next video, and as always, you have a nice day.